Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Oh, I hope I give you the shits, mate.
Oh no. Oh no. We're in for a review full of dodgy accents from Tim because we're watching a movie with all the characters are British. So yes, this is a horror.
Scottish.
That was an English accent. It was a bad attempt at an English accent, but so yes, this is a horror movie podcast. We get together, we talk about a horror film every week, and this is Werewolf Month. Part of us prepping for Tim's paternity leave is that we're doing theme months, and this is part of Werewolf Month, and this was the vote winner actually. So for all the theme months, we have had our patrons at the $5 and up vote on 4 movies between, and the winner was Dog Soldiers. So that's what we're talking about today. This is the Neil Marshall directed film from 2002. This is the director who went on to do The Descent
And Hellboy.
Yes, technically he did recently do a Hellboy movie, which no one but
which
Tim
has
liked.
a Scottish pigman in it.
Does it? Yeah, he does. He has a bit of a trend because the main character in this is Scottish. The main character in The Descent is Scottish, and Neil Marshall's not Scottish, but he has a thing for having Scottish characters in his movies.
Got a fetish.
Sure.
Like Tarantino has his feet.
Yes.
Neil Marshall has his blokes from the Emerald Isle.
Oh God. So yes, werewolf movie. We'll start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you warning before we go into the spoilers, and werewolves, things happening, and
Okay.
oh, as is that we should mention that Neil Marshall, of course, like The Descent is kind of his big movie, and for some reason, we've still not done The Descent. The Descent has went unreviewed on streams up until now. Yeah, so
Oh wow.
we'll get to that obviously at some point. So I would never expected we'd have done Dog Soldiers first, but here we are. It won a vote. It's Werewolf Month, and we're going to talk about it. So it's really quite simple. The squad of soldiers in the woods in the Highlands end up trapped in a cottage with a pack of werewolves descending upon them, and it's a bit of a siege movie once it gets going. So that's your premise. It's really that simple. So I assume you'd seen this before, Tim.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so this was a rewatch. Yeah, I'd seen this once, somewhere in the region of 2006, 2007. So it's been a long time. It's been 13, give or take, years. So interesting coming back to it after all that time. So what did you think of Dog Soldiers?
So I would say I like it. I don't love it. I have a friend who liked it a lot, and I think he was the first person to actually show it to me. And I saw it like pretty, in the early 2000s as well. And I do remember at the time being like, whoa, like, hey, this is really cool. And I feel like it's one that gets brought up a lot where, like how you always say, like, yeah, there's not that many good werewolf movies. I feel like, when people are trying to think of good ones, like there are like 3 or 4 that you always hear about. And I feel like a lot of people usually mention this one as maybe a little bit more of a deeper cut. Like it's not like unknown or anything by any stretch, but it's not like the typical ones that people usually go to. But I feel like a lot of people usually recommend this one as being one that they quite like. So I think it had been a while for me as well. So I was, and I do remember liking it quite a bit. And as I'm watching it now, I feel like, there's some stuff I definitely don't like about it. But there's still enough there that I do like. In general, it's not so much the movie's fault. I mean, I understand what they're going for, but just in general, I'm kind of not crazy about like the movies about like the, like a pro like army or like Marine squad of like these tough like soldiers fighting off these creatures. Like to me, it's always kind of like a little less interesting. Not that it can't be done well. Obviously, there's plenty of examples. Like I guess Aliens would be like the one people would kind of go to. But
oh yeah, colonial Marines are a different thing, a bit different ball game.
I think it's like similar, enough to these kind of like soldiers that
No,
in
no,
these
I
kind of
get what you're
stories or
saying.
whatever.
I'm
But,
just what
yeah.
I'm saying is that like I'm basically saying that Aliens is perfect and there's nothing wrong with it.
Oh,
And
right, right.
even though I would typically agree that I'm not super into movies about soldiers usually.
Mhm.
There's exceptions. There's the good examples of things. I love 1917 last year, for
Mhm.
example. But yeah, this is one that has always get brought up. You're right. This is whenever I crack my dig about there only been a couple of good werewolf movies, which I've kind of went back on now. I've discovered a couple in the last couple of years that I would put into the good camp. Maybe not in the best of the
Mhm.
best camp, but now there's kind of like a
Yeah.
nice solid sub tier that I do actually really like. But whenever I
I,
used to,
I do agree that there's still not like a ton of amazing
yeah.
ones, but yeah.
But whenever I said for a long time there's only two good werewolf movies, American Werewolf and Ginger Snaps, people would often say Dog Soldiers as an example of one that, oh no, there is another good one, it's called Dog Soldiers. And I didn't remember loving it when I first saw it, and watching it again now, I kind of see why people like it. I think there's some good elements to it, and on paper I should love it because it's essentially a siege movie in a house, which I tend to really like those kind of setups.
Yep.
And there's moments and things I like about this movie. It's not a bad watch by any means. I do think it's a little bit overlong. I did feel it dragging in the middle, but
Agreed.
I don't feel a passion for it. I don't have like any great love. There's some moments that come off as really cheesy to me. There's a moment right at the end where there's like a one-liner that feels like really out of place to me. I mean, I'll get into it when we get to spoilers and talk about what it actually is and the context of it, but it really feels out of place to me. I like the opening scene. The opening scene actually feels like I think the fact that it's so low budget and it's still shot in film, but it's a very low budget movie, so it feels kind of scratchy. It feels like it's a bit more documentary esque. So
Like,
it's like a couple that's camping who get attacked. We never see the wolves at this opening scene. It's just the couple's reaction, the fear, and it feels like a really sort of like creepy little scene on its own.
yeah. No, no, yeah, I definitely agree with that. And yeah, I'm on a similar page where I do kind of wish that I love this movie, and I think not even like werewolf movies, but also I just want to have another Neil Marshall movie that I love, like, because yeah, the Descent is so great, and it feels like this is the other one that people are kind of like, oh yeah, this one's good too, but yeah, even though I love Hellboy, I don't really consider that to be like a good movie, but
What?
hey, you can like a movie and have the movie not be good.
Yes, but
But
you normally would never admit that though.
for Hellboy, I admit it. the other things I might not admit it for.
Let's talk about the boy. Let's talk about the boy. Come on, let's admit it right now.
That's an actually good movie, though.
No,
that is actually good,
no,
though.
no, 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 no.
But yeah, like Neil Marshall, like The Descent is so good. Like you really want like another hit, and I don't think like every movie he does is bad, but it's just there aren't other ones that you really go as hard for as A Descent.
No,
And
just
this probably would be like the second I like the most, I guess.
because the movie he did after this was Doomsday. Well, not after this, sorry, after The Descent, because he did Descent after this.
Mm-hmm.
They did Doomsday, which was kind of like an Escape from New York in the UK kind of premise, starring Rona Mitra, and it was okay. Like if you like those type of movies, but it never felt like anything more than just kind of a British rip-off of like another movie.
Yeah.
And Dog Soldiers I think is maybe a bit better than okay, but like still not much higher on my enthusiasm for it. And I saw a movie did after that called Centurion, which was not a horror movie. It was just it was like a Roman soldier, basically. But and it had some impressive cast members in it. But I remember just watching that and being like, yeah, this was just okay. I feel like everything he's made, like other than The Descent, and I saw The Descent first, so I had these like high hopes. Like, oh, I want to see more of Neil Marshall's work, and everything I've seen has just been kind of underwhelming, and it's kind of a shame. It really upsets me that he's kind of a one-hit wonder, and as time goes on, and that Hellboy movie did not make me think it's turning in the other direction. It feels like he's getting worse, if anything.
I mean I don't know what's going on with that movie. It feels like even that I feel like I don't know. I feel like Marshall was maybe phoning stuff in, or I don't know if he was
Mm.
having problems with like the producers or Magnola or something, but like I don't know, at least like some of these other movies, well, I don't like love him. Like I feel like he's probably still trying, but I don't know, something was like weird about the Hellboy movie that I feel like he like just like gave up on like halfway through or something. I don't know.
It does feel like
So
a film that
strange.
might have had a lot of studio problems or interference
For sure.
or whatever. That's not to say that his vision would have been good necessarily either, but
Right.
I mean, he's done a few episodes of TV shows, which that are,
Yeah.
he did a couple episodes of Lost in Space, he did an episode of Westworld, he did a couple episodes of Timeless. Things I've seen, things that are solid. I think he did a couple of Game of Thrones as well. So he's done other things before he returned to movies. Because after Centurion was 2010, and he just did TV episodes for basically like most of the decade until Hellboy. He's got a new movie out this year called The Reckoning.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah.
Which
Not
is
sure how it'll go.
which is a horror movie.
Mhm.
So maybe we'll visit that at some point.
Mhm.
But it doesn't seem to be well loved just from a glance.
Okay.
Just from a glance. Sean Pertwee's back in it though, because he's in this. He's the sergeant in this.
Okay.
And it was bugging me what I knew him from, because I was like, I recognize this guy from something, and it's because he's Alfred on Gotham. That's
Okay.
that's what I was recognizing him from. Of all
course.
things. But yes, so yeah, I don't love it. It's not bad. The werewolves look all right. For the low budget movie that it is.
Yeah. I think like you kind of said before, like there's a bit of a charm, like because I don't think it looks great, but again, I think for what they're going for and like the budget and everything, like it does work, and I think you can see that in the werewolf designs. Like I think they're designed fine, but then like when it actually comes time for them to move or something, like seems like they do a lot of like editing tricks and stuff to get around that they probably don't look great in movement and everything.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really like the direction in the opening, and obviously Neil Marshall's a competent director, but I did feel at times later on it was overly edited. There's when stuff's going on at the house, there's a particular scene where one of the soldiers is sort of got his back against the door. He's sort of sitting down, and it's like a tense scene because like the arms try to come through the door or whatever, and he's trying to reach for his gun, and it cuts between like the same three shots, but it cuts between them like multiple times in the space of like 10 seconds, and it felt like it was just going do, and I was like, this is too much. This is too much cutting. I'm not sure if you're trying to hide something here and you had very limited footage, so you're sort of trying to get around it by a lot of fancy, or I say fancy, a lot of over the top editing, or if you're trying to do something with this editing paste that's just not working for me, and I'm just sort of taken out of it and going, why is this edited so erratically? It's not like the whole movie's like that. It's more just the action scenes, and that's maybe one of the biggest failings of the movie. I think is that the action scenes where we get a couple of scenes where the soldiers are like all basically just like firing their guns out from the windows, and they're just defending the house. I actually think those are all pretty boring. It's kind of a weird thing to say because they should be the most exciting scenes in the movie. But I think because it's a bunch of soldiers and they're just kind of shooting into nothing, for the most part, it doesn't really achieve much or make me feel anything. Because typically in a siege movie like this, where you're trapped in a house, but Night of the Living Dead or whatever, like the fun comes in like them planning. Okay, what are the rules? How can we protect ourselves? Like, what's the plans going forward? And whenever they are sort of trying to form plans, I get a bit more into it. But so much of it then sort of devolves into just kind of like these shootout sequences and stuff that I don't know. And it's not that that inherently is bad, because there's stuff like that in Aliens where they're trying to like sort of protect themselves in this one area, and like that stuff's usually fun. But I got a little bit bored in this one. And it may just be the direction.
Yeah.
And maybe the direction of the action is just not that good. Maybe he's a better horror director than he's an action director, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I that's probably like part of it. Like it does feel very Aliens to me. Especially with the idea of like, most werewolf movies, there's usually like one main werewolf that's like the monster. In this, and it's like, oh no, now we just have like a bunch of werewolves, and they're just kind of like, these creatures you gotta, these army people gotta fight against. But like I think part of the problem is, like the action is just kind of boring. Like yeah, a lot of times it just kind of devolves to them just shooting or whatever, and like, yeah, it's not maybe like necessarily like, you know, super clever stuff. There's a few scenes like here and there that I enjoyed, but also though, like I don't really love the characters. Like, again, if this is trying to be aliens, like, one of the things that makes that movie so good is like, very memorable, likable characters that you want to see all the way through. These they all just really just blend together for me. Like no one really stood out except for I guess kind of the main guy, but just because he's the main guy,
he's a bit more reserved. But the rest of them all just kind of come across as, we're all hard men, we're all tough soldiers,
Exactly,
and that's kind of just all they are. And having them talk about football and say, I wish I was watching the football tonight, it isn't really enough to like give them characteristics. It's a bit too generic to really give a shit about anything. And there's sort of a villainous character. There's an antagonist who is an actor people know. I think he ended up in Game of Thrones and he's been in some other stuff, but he honestly, like, I found the character to be so maniacally cheesy in a way that just kind of took me out of the movie. He's just such an asshole, the way he talks and the way he's constantly just like just not cooperating with them at every step of the way, that it just felt off. And
I
don't know. I didn't really enjoy that element all that much. I think this, I mean, ultimately I think it comes down to two things. I think the direction for the action stuff is kind of dull and boring, and maybe they spend too much time focusing on it. And it probably comes down to what you said, which I don't think the characters are that interesting or likable for the most part.
Which, it is kind of a shame because, the other elements I do like it, and you kind of mentioned this before too, like I like the idea that it's a siege movie, like just like a siege movie with werewolves should be like pretty cool. But like nothing else really about it ends up being that too memorable or that great. But I mean, probably sound like being like a little too negative. Like, again, I don't hate it at all. Like I think it's definitely watchable. It has some cool moments. I just don't love it. It's like fine. I don't need to watch it all the time or anything.
Yeah, it's very watchable. I never been super disappointed. Going into this viewing, I was wondering if maybe the reason why I was so like disappointed last time when I first saw it is because I went to it as, this is the Descent director's previous film, and I went into it with that mindset. I thought maybe get into it this time because, like, okay, I remember how I felt last time, so I'm going in with kind of muted expectations. Maybe this time I'll appreciate it for what it is. And I thought I was doing okay with it for the first little bit, because the opening scene is good with the campers, and then it starts slowly building, and the soldiers are just on a training mission. They're not expecting any real danger. But when it actually starts to turn and starts to go into it, it kind of, there's a disconnect with the film that never really lets me really get involved or makes me root for the characters or really care about what's going on. It basically tries to make you love the main character because he's not willing to shoot a dog when there's no reason to. So which is probably the most like in your face, like, hey, this guy's our hero because he's compassionate and has empathy for animals. So that's his whole thing. And the sad part is it never really goes beyond that. There's a little bit of payoff to it towards the end, but like it never really becomes anything deeper than that, which is a shame. So it is what it is, unfortunately. And I know we may get some blowback on this because I do think that this is a liked movie. People do like this, and there's fans of this film. But
I would be curious though, like, again, what, like, if there was someone that was going like really hard for this movie and saying like, oh, you're idiots, you don't know what you're talking about, this rules. I think the first thing I would ask would be like, all right, when was the last time you watched it? Because like, if you did see this in the early 2000s, like, and I think it like premiered on the Sci-Fi Channel, at least in America, which, like, I say, hey, if you're judging it by sci-fi movie standards, and it's pretty damn good. But
if you're compared to Sharknado, yes, it's up there.
But yeah, I mean, if you haven't watched it since, like, you saw it on TV in 2004 or whatever, then it's like, yeah, maybe go back again and check it out. And
Yeah, that's definitely just a US thing. It definitely came out in theaters in the UK,
right,
for sure. I also, obviously we can't talk about it too much until spoilers, but there is some plot twists and developments in the back half of the film that left me just scratching my head and annoyed, to be honest. So that's going against it as well. So it's kind of like I was just kind of mildly into it, but once that plot twist happens, I'm like, okay, you've actually kind of annoyed me now, and now I'm actively kind of against you. So, good job there. Which is a shame. It's a shame. So hey, so I think we'll take that time. I'll thank our Patreon producers at the time of recording. As you can tell from the Christmas, I didn't mention this at the start, but there's a Christmas tree in the background. That's because we're recording this in December. Because we're banking for Tim's paternity leave. But so thank you to our Patreon producers of Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Board Now, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, Brett Williams, and David Brown. They are Patreon producers at the time of recording. They are patrons at $20 or more on patreon.com/mailedfuzztv, where you can go and get some goodies, and give us support, is what I'm trying to say, for as little as $1 per month. And $1 is more than we would make if you watched every ad on every video we put up on YouTube over a month. So well worth doing if you want to throw $1 our way and get some exclusive access to some bonus episodes, the whole back catalogue, and there'll be new ones again once Tim's back from paternity leave. We also have early access to every episode at the $5 tier, so go and have a look and see if you're interested in any of the bonus stuff and want to help us keep producing content and grow and expand. And of course you can do all that for free as well by simply hitting the like button, which helps us all a lot, so thank you very much. So yeah, full spoilers then for Dog Soldiers from this point on. So yeah, I want to talk about the twist. Let's talk about the twist first, because this really annoyed me.
Do you mean the one where the woman that they were like hiding out with turns out to be a werewolf? Was it that one?
Yes,
or...
that
okay.
twist in particular. Yeah, so the whole so she runs into them early on when they first encountered a wolf and they're running, and she pulls up in a car and takes them to this little farmhouse, which is where they end up for the rest of the movie. And she's a zoologist. She says she's here because she heard stories and she was looking into things. And there's more to why the military guys are there, which we'll get to in a minute. But she's giving them advice all movie and talking about the fact that they're werewolves and that Silver kills them, but no one's got close. Blah blah blah. And she's there for a long time. There's a little bit of chemistry with the lead character. What was his name? Cooper.
Cooper.
And the whole thing, just out of nowhere, there's a twist where she is also a werewolf. And that she tricked them, because eventually she says, "Oh, they'll probably all be together, very possibly in the barn." And they come up with this whole plan at this point in the movie to drive what's left of a car that's already been damaged into the barn, set it on fire, have it blow up. And she tricked them into doing this, and they've already established that the family who lives at this house are the werewolves, right? That the idea that there's like 6 of them, there's 6 family members here, that this is why they live out here in the middle of nowhere. Fine. I mean, that's okay. I'm fine with that part. That's whatever.
Yeah.
But then it's like, you're not in the photograph with the family because you took the photograph. And I'm like, wait, so she's part of this family? Is that what they're saying to me? And then she starts to turn, and I'm like, wait, hold on. Nothing in this movie has remotely implied the idea that the werewolves can choose to turn back and forth at will. So why has she been a human the whole time? I don't.
Well, yeah, because like at this point, like I think it makes more sense if it's like, okay, this family is just out in the wilderness because they can't control these changes, and they're not trying to do this or whatever. But then the fact that she's one of them like kind of raises all these questions where it's like, all right, well, wait, if they have the control, then like why are they doing this? Like, why do they have to like live out here?
Yeah, I mean, the part
I don't know, that's kind of strange.
The part that kind of makes sense is that she brought them all to the house because that's where the rest of the werewolves are. So she's just there to lure them in, so they're easy pickings. The weird part though for me is that well, if that's the plan, then why is the other werewolf that's chasing them to get to the car? Why is like that werewolf sticking its hand in the truck and getting its hand like stabbed and like almost cut off, and like why not once they're scared enough to get into this truck with this woman, why even keep attacking them at that point? I don't know. The whole thing just feels really murky, so they could have this twist. And a lot of what she was saying before, like maybe if I watch it again with this twist in mind, because I'd forgotten this from the original time. I didn't remember this when I was watching it.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe like some of what she was saying earlier on would make sense in context, where I'm like, oh, I see why she's saying it this way now, or why she's saying that. But I was thinking back to the rest of the movie, and I'm like, I don't know. I didn't get that there was like double meanings, or like why is she telling them? She outright says to them that you kill a werewolf with silver, and I'm like, why are you telling them the weakness then? If I mean, because there's a whole like because the camping couple at the start like had like a silver pen because she'd bought it as like a present for him as a writer, and there's like no silver in the house, but there's like this is in the basement because they've stored like stuff from victims down there, and it becomes this thing at the end where he gets to use the silver pen to kill the antagonist who eventually turns into a werewolf, the captain dude. But anyway, yes. So, twist thoughts, anything?
I wouldn't. I mean, I kind of feel about it the same way as you do. But like, I'm not against having this twist. But yeah, I think you do have to, like plan it better. Like it kind of feels like it just comes out of nowhere, and then like you said, it's a little head scratchy where it's like, well, okay, yeah, then why, was this stuff happening earlier and everything, and yeah, and I'm not really crazy about like werewolves that can just transform at will. Like, I like kind of having the rule of the full moon,
And I guess why isn't she doing more stuff to sabotage them in the house? Because she's there for a long time with them. Why isn't she doing stuff to like sabotage their weapons or sabotage other things? And maybe it would have worked better for me if like when a werewolf is attacking them near the start when they find the captain because the captain, the antagonist, is not part of their squad. He's part of this elite squad. That is essentially, as we find out later, using this training exercise, quote unquote. They've actually arranged this so the main squad that we follow with Cooper and the Sarge, who are sort of the main two that we get to know, they're the bait. They're there to like bait the werewolf because they think there's one werewolf to catch, but the werewolves end up killing all of his squad. And when they find the captain, he's kind of injured. They bring him with them, and he eventually heals and turns into a werewolf, and that's why he heals. Because the same thing happens with the Sarge, where the Sarge like literally has his intestines dropping out, but eventually starts to feel better and like his wounds heal. It's like he knows he's turned into a werewolf, so they do that part of it. And they definitely don't have an option of when they turn. Because both the Sarge at the end when he's turning and when the captain dude turns like 2/3 through, both of them aren't choosing to turn. It happens to them involuntarily. They're just sort of like raging out, and it's starting to happen. But
yeah, like I mean, if I had to guess, I would say that there's probably something to it where like, okay, once you're a werewolf, like with with practice and whatever, you can eventually like,
yeah, I guess,
but I mean, the movie though doesn't really give you any like,
yeah. Well,
that's kind of making a leap in logic,
Yeah, what I was getting to though is like back at the start when she shows up with the truck, when she showed up with the truck and drove off, the werewolf the hand never came through the ceiling of the truck, never came through the ceiling, the roof, right, and never like, so there was no more werewolf sightings once she appeared. And if they'd said, and then if the argument was no, because she was the werewolf, she was luring them, and then changed back into a human, so then the twist would have a purpose. It's like, oh, okay, so she was the one werewolf who was messing with them to lure them into the truck so that she could bring them here, and now they're here, it's open season, the whole family can feed. But
yeah,
no, there definitely was another werewolf, so I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I never liked the twist all that much. It kind of bugged me. I think it's stupid as well. If she's part of the family, or if she isn't part of the family and she got turned by the family and now she works with the family because she's she stayed alive long enough to become a werewolf, instead of dying. Because it's very clear that the other victims, they don't become werewolves because the werewolves eat them all. Like they're just gone.
Right.
But if you get scratched and then get to live for a few hours, you'll become one. Yeah, not great. Oh, and I've not even got to the backstory of the main character, where he actually has a connection to this captain because he tried to join this elite squad and failed because he wouldn't shoot a dog in the opening 5 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I can't blame him. I mean,
nor can I. Nor can
I feel like also like all right, if you want that as part of your test, like I feel like, all right, give him a gun with like blanks or something. Like you don't have to actually shoot the dog. Like you can like, I feel like there's ways to do it without actually hurting the animal. And obviously they didn't like, kill a dog in real life for the movie, but like, still I think like, yeah, like you didn't need to do that.
I think the bad guy is so cheesy as well. Like he's such a cheesy guy. I mean, the whole killing the dog is a test. That was done in Kingsman as well. I think it's done better in that movie. But yeah, he comes off as so cheesy. So that's just how we eventually realized that they were here to hunt a werewolf, but no, there was multiple. They used this other squad as bait, and it's got them in this predicament. He's slowly turning into a werewolf, and he's becoming more of a, because he can barely walk when they first find him, but then by the time they've tied him to a chair, he's clearly okay and talking normally and not in pain.
Yeah.
And from there, the Sarge as well, who wakes up and it helps shoot out the werewolves at one point in the film, but this is the other thing, like the bullets are clearly not killing them. Maybe it hurts and that's why they're waiting back a little bit, but part of me was like, well, if it's trying to kill you, they might not just rush in and kill them all anyway. Like what?
Yeah,
I don't know. There's a lot of just, I don't know, disconnects I have with this film. That because I appreciate the gritty kind of realism it's trying to go for, like this gritty realism, sure. Like group of soldiers in the Highlands try to defend themselves against werewolves. There's something to be said there. I think the ambition there is pretty solid. Pretty much all the other characters, all the other soldiers though, because the sergeant and Cooper, the Scottish guy, those are the two that get the most time, get some character traits, tell some stories, that kind of thing. The rest of them are very just like, I don't know, like, oh, we're tough Englishmen who like football, and by the time we get to a scene where one of them like sort of goes out to distract them, it's when they're trying to like clear a path for the guy to like hotwire the car, because they're going to use the car that's there to escape basically. It doesn't go very well though. One of the wolves just kind of ends up hiding in the back and killing the guy that's in there. But they have like another one go at the back, and I think it's Spoonie is the one that goes out the back and like basically just like yells things like,
I would never remembered their names.
I only remembered Spoonie because it was stupid. And Sarge is easy because it's just Sarge, but
I think Cooper is the main character, so like that is
that sticks a bit more. Yes, he's the one at the start who's like, I never said I wouldn't shoot a dog, sir. I just wouldn't shoot that dog for no reason.
I was worried they were gonna shoot the other dog. Too later. Yeah,
they find a dog. They find a dog at the farmhouse, which it pays off the start of the movie because the dog ends up saving Cooper when he's the last one left. The dog comes in and like distracts the werewolf, and then
that's true. Yeah.
Then Cooper's able to do his thing. Yeah. What things that, so obviously, the captain who's the villain. He gets stabbed with a sword that's in the house, so that when he pops up at the end as a werewolf, we know it's him. We know it's him that's the werewolf, right? So we can have Cooper sort of like have his final kill on the bad guy. And he uses that silver pen that was from the opening scene. Fine, all good stuff. But he has this one-liner, and it's this really weird shot that's really straight in his face where he says, they think it's all over. It is now. And this is a really weird, cheesy line. Now, it is set up a little bit in the movie, because after the first guy in their squad dies, it's the guy who really liked football, so Cooper, when he's because Cooper kind of becomes the leader because Sarge is like so injured, and he's like, oh, so the good dude that just died, he really liked football, and the bad guy's like, oh, they think it all over it is now? No, I hate football. Now, you probably have no idea what that phrase is from, Tim. I mean, I'm surprised I know it. I think the only reason why I know that phrase and where it comes from is because there used to be a sports quiz show that was named after it.
Okay.
And I think that's why I know this. But It was when England won the World Cup in 1960 something.
Okay.
There was apparently I think they were like losing up until the very end, and they scored a goal right in the last couple of seconds, and the commentator yelled out, "They think it's all over. The goal scorers. It is now." It's become kind of a phrase to talk about them winning the World Cup. Happened in the 60s, and they've never shut up about it.
Okay.
So it being shoehorned in here is really, really weird. What is really odd about it is that a Scottish character says it, because, I mean, I don't give a crap because I don't care about sports. I never have. But Scottish people who like football tend to really not like the fact that England won the World Cup. So it's really weird that a Scottish character says and quotes this English World Cup victory like phrase. It's really odd, and I get that it's set up in the movie because it's established that it's tied to a scene with the bad guy where he brings it up when he talks about this other character dying. So it is set up in the movie to be something that means something between the two of them, but it still feels. I think it's more the cheesiness of how it's said that bothers me more than anything. But as a bit of tangential, like cultural, like knowledge, it is also kind of weird that a Scottish character's saying it, but whatever. It's odd.
Yeah. I mean, I mean that was all completely lost on me. I mean, obviously I don't know anything about sports either, but I mean, especially
British sports.
Yeah. So I mean, I assumed it was just all right, that's just a regular line or whatever. It didn't really register as anything other than that to me.
I mean, it's probably the extent of my sports trivia knowledge. I don't know anything else about sports. But I mean, it just came off as really weird because it's this really cheesy moment where he says it. It feels kind of stilted at the very end. Because I mean, we've glossed over a lot of the action here. Where Sarge, as he's turned into a werewolf, wants to save everyone and kill all the werewolves, so he blows up the house, it's stuff like that. But
yeah, I don't know. It's I mean, it's one of the things too. It's kind of funny because the movie does feel pretty long, but I don't know, when you go back and think about it, I feel so much of once they get to the house just kind of blends together. I
think that's the problem, is that most movies that are set in a house or something like this, where it's one location, there's clear sections to it where they have to form a plan to solve a problem, but it never really is anything other than the wolves are outside. How much ammo do we have? And then they sit around and talk about what they are and convincing themselves that werewolves exist, or getting a little bits more information out the bad guys to what was really going on. It feels like it just kind of goes around in circles a little bit, so it kind of drags, I think.
Yeah. I did like there's one scene where as one guy, it seems like he's kind of unhinged. He's just going really hard on the werewolves in the kitchen. And I think he's just kind of just constantly stabbing one over and over again. I thought that was kind of funny and stood out a little bit, but yeah, I mean, again, it's not much.
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing. It's really competently made for the most part, and it's got some moments, and the werewolves' designs I think are good. They don't move very well, but the actual look of them's fine. Which it's the opposite. This is the total opposite of last week, which was also a bit of vet, but funnily enough, it was a bit of soldier, retired, true, obviously. But it's just funny how this is kind of the thing where the werewolves look much better, but I think Late Phases is a much better movie.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And lands much better for me. I mean, even we're not doing Howl this month, but I mean we will at some point, and I think that's a better British werewolf movie.
For sure. Yeah.
So, I think Dog Soldiers is a bit overrated. Whenever I hear people talk about it as being one of the better werewolf movies, rather, I don't quite get it. Usually, I'm usually it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, like you said before, though, if it's, I mean, maybe if it's just because there's so little standout werewolf movies, maybe you kind of got to grasp onto what you can get. So even if it's something that's okay, it's well, I mean, at least it's watchable as opposed to just not being a ton of werewolf movies in general, or just being a lot of really bad ones.
Is this basically just a case of, well, the example a few years later was Cursed, and compared to Cursed it looks like gold?
Yeah.
Is it that simple?
It could
But,
be.
and by the way, Cursed we reviewed for Patreon, so if you want to pay that dollar on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, you can get access to our, and I think that was a long review as well. That was a long,
That was
meaty
a good
discussion.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about that movie.
Yeah. Because I feel like with this one, I'm almost done because, like you said, once they get to the house, it feels like it just all blends together and goes in circles a little bit.
Yeah.
I think because usually what I like about bottle movies is how they use the space and how they use different problems that crop up and they have to solve problems. And there's a little bit of planning. There's a little bit of like, oh, we're going to do this, and I think trying to get to the car in the barn and trying to like then blow up the barn. Those are the two moments where there's actually kind of some like a goal and a plan that's formed, and those are maybe some of the better segments at the house. But there's a lot of it where they're just sort of sitting around like patching up wounds and kind of talking and then shooting again for a bit and then talking again and then shooting again.
Yeah, and it's kind of a boring house. Like it doesn't like I never really felt like, oh, this is a cool location, like the cabin from Evil Dead, or or even like like the house like in like that Laurie's babysitting in Halloween or whatever. Like I don't know, there's I don't know, there's just like it seems like very sparse, like there's not really a lot of stuff there, and I don't know, never really was too into that location, even though I do like I get the idea of them being like trapped in a house, but I feel like you can make the location at least a bit more interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like a werewolf movie for people who, I don't know, like a bro movie, I guess. Like people who really
A
like.
little bit, yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah, might as well kill all these tough guys fighting werewolves. Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose in some ways it's trying to be the Predator of werewolf movies, but I think Predator is a much better made and directed film with obviously some
For sure.
star power. But I mean, I don't need star power because you don't. But
yeah,
if I'm comparing Predator and Dog Soldiers, Predator's wiping the floor with it, and it's not even.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Because part of the point of Predator, of course, is again you have these entertaining, memorable characters, despite the fact that they are just a group of soldiers. But part of the thing with Predator is the whole point of that, and I mean it's a movie that we'll do on Ace, not Screams. It's not it's not enough of a horror movie,
right?
But there is something to be said that it's essentially a slasher movie, but instead of a group of teenagers, it's like a group of the toughest, muscly, baddest of the badasses that there is, and that's kind of the point, is that this is an enemy that can take out these guys, Yeah. If Jason went after like Arnold and like Carol Weathers and Bill Duke and Jesse the Body Ventura, he may actually have a bit of a tough fight on his hands because these guys are prepared and they're all like ready to fight.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point here, is that, it's one thing for a couple of campers to be mauled by werewolves, but no, this squad of soldiers is also going to have a hard time and barely stand a chance. Like, that's kind of the reason why you do a group of characters like this, is you want it to feel like, no, the threat's that grave that, even this squad only barely stand a chance.
Right. Yeah, like, I'm not against the idea of, like, soldiers fighting monsters. I just feel like if you do it, you have to have, like, really memorable, likable characters, because I feel like the reason why I usually don't like it is because of, movies like this where the characters are just kind of forgettable or like a little bro-y or whatever.
And
like
it's not so much that, they're, because I think the sad part is that the reason why this movie's like this, and I think other movies that are like this that are not technically doing the wrong thing, is because they're doing it out of realism. They want the characters to feel like real people, and
sure. Yeah.
I think that's the goal here, as opposed to, because sometimes when it's an uninteresting character, it's just because the script's bad, it's just because the actor's bad, and it's not that it's going for realism, it's just bad, right? I don't think here it's bad in that way. It's just this ultra realism when it comes to, okay, we wanted a group of people who feel like real people. The problem with that is that a group of real people are kind of boring, and a group of real people are not that interesting, and they're not inherently likable in the same way that a group of curated movie characters are. And
right,
I think that's my problem with a lot of war movies, actually, especially modern war movies, is they want all the people to feel kind of realistic. So you end up with a bunch of really kind of like, we've all met like guys like this, and they're just like, I don't really want to watch a movie about guys like this. It's whatever.
Right.
It's fine. So Yeah, I feel like people were hoping for like a nice positive review for this one. I think people were hoping Dog Soldiers was getting a good time, and I feel like I was kind of worried about this that you were going to really like it, and I was going to be the negative one. I'm kind of glad that you're like you just come out the bat and it's not that good. It's okay.
Yeah,
It's watchable.
I mean, and I do admit I actually do want to like it more.
No, me too. I agree.
I mean, but yeah, unfortunately, it's just yeah. It again, not the worst thing in the world. There's definitely stuff to like about it, but I think at the end of the day, it doesn't really get better than like just okay to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I appreciate the attempt. I appreciate the ambition and the goals of what it's doing, but ultimately, I just can't care about the characters, and I can't care about what's going on, and at times it is just kind of boring and repetitive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think better, more interesting characters would have helped it so much. Like I think everything else that we have a problem with could have still been there, and we'd have still been like, oh, it's fine though, because I had a lot of fun watching the characters fight through the situation. As it is,
because like I don't. Yeah, because like obviously like it's like a low budget movie, but like I mean, you don't need budget to have like interesting likable characters.
Oh, of course
like that's
not.
like the one thing that you can do really well without.
If anything, that's one of the things that attracts a lot of people to low budget movies, the good ones, is that they're forced to make sure that stuff is great because they don't have the luxury of relying on fancy effects and big explosions and stuff. So they focus in on that stuff. So it hurts when it doesn't quite land there. And again, not the worst attempt at this. There's definitely movies with worse characters. There's movies with far more obnoxious characters. They're just kind of bland and a bit too normal to really care about, in all honesty. So not enough nuance in their writing or performances. So there you go. There's a lot of yelling. There's a lot of swearing. A lot of, moan then, if you fancy a go, yeah, wolfy prick. Like just like all right, calm down. So there you go. I mean, that's Dog Soldiers. It's just one of those things. What are you rating it, Timmy?
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about the.
No.
So I guess like camera light hurts them or like blinds them or something or.
Oh, just like flash a light, because they have like flashbangs, yeah. We should have mentioned that the POV shots of the werewolves is black and white. It's like black and white, but it looks like daytime from their perspective, like they can see in the dark. So it's like bright black and white. It's interesting.
It doesn't. Yeah, I didn't think that necessarily looked great.
I thought it was odd that in some of the scenes where they're being attacked, there was actually another camera effect as well, where it looked like it got really saturated for some of the action shots. It was kind of odd. I wasn't sure how I felt about that either.
But I did think it did look kind of cool though that like they do show the photographs like during the credits. Like, all right, that's all right. But I don't know. It's not that big a thing though. It does make it a little tough to rate though, doesn't it? It's probably like gonna sound pretty harsh, but I think I'm gonna give it a 5.5, just below a 6, which I think would be more like something that's like not great, but I kind of like it. I think like a 5 is more just like it's okay. This is okay, So yeah, a little surprised it was that low because going in, I would have thought it would have been, like, maybe even like as high as like a 7 or something. But yeah, that's
it feels like it wants to be. It wants to be. I mean, all movies want to, but it feels like it's aiming for higher. But the more it goes on, the more I kind of like all the problems kind of stack up, and I sort of lose it. I am probably just going with a straight 5 from me. Straight down the middle, 5 out of 10. I wonder how people are actually surprised by our opinions on this one, because I feel like this does have the fan base. It really does. I hear people always bring this up when they talk about werewolf movies. So
I'm curious. I mean, I don't know. Is this one where where I'll be brave enough to look at the YouTube comments. I don't know. Might be harsh.
I've given up on your bravery a long time ago, Tim. I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
All right, those are the ratings. If you made it this far into the review, put the word lycanthrope into the comments. So there you go. As for this new segment that I've been toying with, which again it may have been ages ago by the time you've seen this. There's 613 user reviews on IMDb. Obviously,
Wow.
we're not going to look at all of them by any means. The very first review is 10 out of 10. My number one. Sometimes people's rating, English grammar is not the best. My number one, the best werewolf horror film of all time, a true classic masterpiece. There was no full stop or like new sentence breaks in there. That was just one sentence. Honestly, there's a lot of positive reviews. There's a lot of 8, 9s, and 10s. People do really like this movie.
Surprising.
Some people are calling it the best werewolf movie there is. Honestly, I mean, this whole new section where I have a glance at the IMDb reviews at the end of a review. I mean, I'm going more for the funny, like, low scores more than anything. But I think even in this case, it's kind of valuable to see that, no, this is like 8, 9s, and 10s, the odd 7. Like, people are really positive about it. So I think this is interesting just from the sake of getting a sense of how the greater internet feels to some extent. Obviously, it's not a foolproof thing, and IMDb comments may not actually be a complete representation of the internet at large, but it's an interesting thing to glance at.
I'm not surprised that people like it. Like I can definitely see, why people might dig it. But I think what surprises me is when the enthusiasm is that high. Like if you like it, totally fine. But like the people that are like, oh, it's amazing, it's the best werewolf movie ever. It's 9 out of 10. Like that is like really like that. I kind of find hard to believe, but each their own, I guess.
Yes. The only good title of any of these reviews that I've seen scrolling here for a bit is someone just put sausages, which I'm assuming is a reference to the intestines that spill out of the guts at one point because they look kind of sausage-esque.
That makes sense. Yeah,
that's my only guess. But there's basically universal praise in these reviews. It's not as good as when you look at the reviews for Jack Frost 2 and it's just nothing but 1s out of 10s and people being mad. Although in that context, sometimes it was the 10 out of 10s that were even funnier because really? This movie? A 10? Jack Frost 2? That's a bold take, my man. All right, there you go. That's Dog Soldiers. So once again, I'll remind you, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV if you want to support us and get some bonuses. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at ScreamsMidnight for updates and some witty nonsense perhaps from us. So please do. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you very much. Hopefully enjoying Werewolf Month. We got more to come. In fact, the next couple of werewolf movies are the heaviest of heavy hitters. We're doing some straight up classics. So hopefully you look forward to that, and we'll see you next time. And I'm sorry, Tim's cat, there is no Were Kitty movies on the schedule, but maybe someday. Okay. Thank you very much once again for watching or listening, guys. Oh, yeah, Tim, go on. Crack a joke. Crack a joke before we're done.
Well, it wasn't going to be a joke. I was just going to say, do you need me to do a pose?
Oh, have I done the pose? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Tim needs to do a pose. Yeah, shift that, get nuke that cat from orbit. Out of the way, feline menace. 3, 2, 1, pose. Very good. Nice simple shrug. All right. Almost forgot to do a section there. My bad. Thank you very much for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, and we'll see you next time.